So I hope you all had a good weekend. I had a good weekend, an exhausting weekend. My littles were here, and they aren't quite so little anymore as when I watched them, babysat them 3 years ago. But let's see, the twins, Ben and Griffin, are now 7 and going into the 2nd grade, and Ainsley is she will be 9 next month and going into the 4th grade, and she's like a mini teenager, so that's was a little different. I'm not used to that from her, but we had a good time, lots of bike rides, and it was a socially distanced weekend for them, meaning we didn't go anywhere. Everything was at my house. Fortunately, Emily was home to help and keep the kids occupied, and they just love her. But we did lots of bike rides in the neighborhood. We did the sprinkler, water guns, water balloons. We made sundaes, we made pizza. What else did we do? Sidewalk chalk, games, movies. So it was a full weekend. So needless to say, Emily and I are exhausted. And I sent the kids home very exhausted too. Their parents came and we had meltdowns and everything just because they were so tired. But it was a good weekend, lots of fun, all in all. So Mrs. Knabe's Sleepover 2020 was a success, and I'm glad we finally got to do it since our early April one we postponed. But anyways, today I'm showing you a relatively very easy layout, but there is a twist to it. So I will show you that, and then we're going to make this one with the Ornate Style stamp set, and then we are going to make a second one with one of the new holiday sets I have. So you want to stay tuned all the way through. I'm just going to add the label to this rubber stamp. I haven't used this big stamp in the set yet. Okay, there we go. So for this, you need a fairly large size stamp. And if you don't have that, you can use small ones that you'll cover your white cardstock with. Let me grab a piece of scrap here. So I had told you would need 3 pieces of cardstock. The Whisper White is 2 3/4 by 4 inches, 2 3/4 by 4. This Granny Apple Green that I'm using for my layer is 3 1/4 by 4 1/2. And then my card base is 4 1/4 by 11 inches, and I scored it 5 1/2 on the long side. And I'll just fold that over, make a nice crease with my bone folder. Okay, so we're going to do, and you can go ahead and adhere this layer to your card front right away. And we're going to do more than just stamp and color the image and stick it on here. So don't jump to that step, because we're going to do something with it beforehand. Okay, so this is a rather large stamp. It barely fits on this size block, but it does. And I'm going to stamp with the black Momento ink. When I have stamps this large, it's easier for me to put the ink on this way instead of having the ink pad down and stamping it. And this way I'm sure that I get the ink everywhere I need it, not leaving anything left to chance. Okay, there's lots of fine lines and dots in here, so I want to make sure I'm getting it all. I think I did. Okay. And now I'm just going to stamp this on that piece of white. I'll take my scrap paper away in a moment so you can see it a little better. And since it is a large stamp, you do want to be sure you've got even pressure over the whole thing. I find that a flat palm or flat fingers works well, because then you can put a lot of pressure down, but you're not rocking the block by putting some pressure on one side and not the other. So a flat hand works well. Okay. All right, so that looks good. And now I'm going to spend some time coloring. I'll probably be doing this fairly quickly. Let me see what color this is. No, I don't think I want that. Now when you're doing this, chances are your big stamp you are going to need to color. So we have lots of different coloring tools that you can use. I'm using the watercolor pencils. And you can just color plain with the watercolor pencils. Or after you color, you can soften all the brush strokes with a blender pen, or very lightly with an aqua painter. But usually when we're using an aqua painter, we want to use watercolor paper or the shimmer white paper. We also have our traditional Stampin' Right markers. And when you are coloring with those, I would suggest you use the StazOn ink so that the colors don't bleed. And then you could also use the Stampin' blends, the alcohol-based markers, which are my favorite. And with that, you would also use the, what do I want to say? The Tuxedo Black Momento ink with the Stampin' blends. I may not color this entire thing while you're watching, because that could get kind of boring for you. But I'll do enough that you get a good idea of what colors I'm using. Of course, you want to choose what colors appeal to you the most. I use, that was Flirty Flamingo pencil. So I used Daffodil Delight Flirty Flamingo, and then this is Gorgeous Grape for these little flowers. And I'll probably give those a yellow center. Coloring quickly, and I can always go back and touch up later. Who likes coloring? Some people do and some people don't. I find it to be relaxing. Now, would I want to sit and color 100 of these? Probably not, or at least not all at once, because you'll get that hand cramp thing going. There's my yellow. But what you're going to do is, after you have stamped and colored on your piece of Whisper White cardstock, again it measures 2 3/4 by 4, using lots of bright colors. Okay, so like I said, you would want to color this completely. before you actually put your card together, okay? But to save time and I want to be able to show you something else, another alternative, then let me think for a second here. Okay, so 2 3/4 is, half of that would be 1 6/8, 3/8, 1 3/8, I believe would be accurate. Okay, so I'm cutting this right in half. So, you know, it's good to remember the half, because if you want to adjust the size of this, you can. All right. And then you're going to take each of these pieces and you're going to cut 2 3/4 from one end. Okay, 2 3/4 from one end. Now, before I cut the second one, I'm going to flip it and cut the opposite end. Okay, Julie, I will go back to your question about the 2 black inks and why we use them with different coloring. Different coloring tools. Okay, so then basically this is your card. So it just is something that adds a little bit of interest to a very easy layout by cutting and spacing, cutting that white piece into 4 and spacing it like this. I'm not going to adhere mine now because I want to be able to pop these up with dimensionals, but it would be difficult for me to finish coloring if I already popped them up on dimensionals first. Okay, so before I go and show you the second card, let's talk a little bit about the 2 black inks again. I don't think everybody quite got that. So in Stampin' Up, we sell the black StazOn. This is a permanent ink. It's considered permanent, okay? And then we also sell the Momento Black Ink. Now, if you just want black, you know, just to maybe stamp a word or something like that, or just stamp an image and you're not coloring, the Momento is my go-to black. Okay, the Momento is my go-to black. Now, if you're using Stampin' blends, those are our alcohol-based markers. You get them in a combo pack, a light shade and a dark shade. You do want to use the Momento. And the reason why is, think of opposites attract, okay? This is permanent, but our Stampin' Right markers, or even our watercolor pencils, think of them as being water-based, okay? Just like our ink pads, our regular color ink pads are water-based, so are our Stampin' Right markers, okay? And if you're using the blender pens and ink pads, or the blender pens and the watercolor pencils, you will likely be using this. If you're adding water to it with the Stampin' Right markers, and remember when I say that, these already are water-based, so you're not necessarily adding water. That's not what I'm talking about. But if you're using the watercolor pencils and you're going to add the blender pen or go over it with the aqua painter, therefore adding water, you would want to use this. Okay? Now, since these are alcohol-based and the StazOn is permanent, these two do not work well together. So that's why you want the Momento. Okay, because that ink is the opposite. It is not alcohol based. It is water based. So therefore you want to use the Stampin' blends with this and there won't be any smudging of the black. I know it can be confusing, so you may even want to you know, maybe take a picture of this. I'll try to remember to post something on my blog and on my Facebook to remind you of which black to use with which coloring tools. Okay? So let's set these aside for now. All right, so there's the basic card. Again, I didn't finish coloring, so I don't want to put those pieces up on Post-it notes. But let's try another card. In fact, if we have time and Facebook doesn't kick us off, we'll actually do two. So some of you may have seen my holiday catalog reveal last week, or my unboxing of my pre-order. One of the suites in there is the Poinsettia Place, and it's got this beautiful designer series paper. Okay. Traditional holiday prints on one side, and then more plain or simple patterns and design on the back that you could use really throughout the entire year. It comes with the Poinsettia Petals bundle, and some of these dies do cut out images that are in the designer series paper, so that's fun as well. And by the way, the stamped images are larger than what you see here. They had to shrink the size of the images to fit them all on that cover, but they are larger, good size. Then it comes with this beautiful sheer real red ribbon. It's really nice. Nice weight, nice width, easy to work with. And then these are awesome. These beaded pearl embellishments look lovely in the center of your poinsettias, and I'm sure people will think of many other ways to use them. So again, I have a piece of the Whisper White measuring 2 3/4 by 4 inches. And let me get my scrap paper out again. I'm going to stamp some, let's move this out of the way. I'm going to stamp some poinsettias and leaves. Actually, let's see. Oh, I'll use this one. I haven't used this at all, so bear with me. Sometimes it's a little, sometimes can be a little trickier than what we think when we first look at it. But I am going to stamp with my Momento. Oh, by the way, the StazOn ink and the photopolymer do not work well together. Okay, so if you're using the photopolymer sets like this one, you may just want to jump to the Momento ink and then your Stampin' blends. But that's just the nature of the material of the stamp as well as the StazOn ink solution. And I'm just going to do that. And I'm also going to stamp over it again like this. I hope this is working the way I want it to. Okay, pretty good. I just want to be able to color in more of the petals and have them show through pretty. And then, let's see, do I want a leaf? Not sure. Okay, we're going to leave it like that for just a moment. Oh, I know what I'll do. I know what I want to do. I like this greenery piece. Can you see it? It's sort of like pine. Let me grab a... I was working on something else, so I have a bunch of stamps over here and blocks. So I'm going to use Mossy Meadow just because I think that will work nicely with the pine and go with the poinsettias. And I'm just going to do something like this. Okay. Put a little down here as well. And then a over here. Okay, and now I'm going to simply color my poinsettia, and I'm going to use the Cherry Cobbler. Oh, I haven't had this color out for a long time, so I'm excited. Do you all remember that Cherry Cobbler is one of my all-time favorite Stampin' Up! Colors, and definitely my favorite Stampin' Up! Red. So I'm using the dark Cherry Cobbler marker just to make these dark accents, and Stampin' Up! Makes it easy. I'm just following the lines on the stamp image. You don't necessarily have to do them all, but considerable number so that you more in the center. Okay. And then I'm going to fill in with the light Cherry Cobbler. And that blends in those darker areas. You can always go back in with your dark Stampin' Blend to add even more dimension and texture to what you're coloring. I'm not going to worry about coloring the center because I'm going to, normally I would color that with some kind of yellow, probably crushed curry, maybe even mango melody, but I'm going to use those beautiful beaded pearl embellishments. Could have went outside the line there, but I'm hurrying. Does anybody else love the poinsettia sweet? Okay, now I can do this again where I want to go back in and make some of these areas darker. In fact, I'm going to go over that like that so there's no white hidden where I want there to be. The Cherry Cobbler ink. I think that looks pretty. And I like the touches of pine in there. I feel like I smudged something. I must have ink on my finger. Okay. Now if you want to get really fancy, you can even add a little of the Wink of Stella to some of this. I'm not going to color the petals completely, but just add some accent areas in there with Wink of Stella. One of my favorite tools, embellishing tools. I always think of Wink of Stella as more of an embellishment than I do a coloring tool. All right, and then what did I do? Here it is. I'm going to add this pretty, oh, look how gorgeous that is. Oh, love it. Something like this design would be pretty on packages, Christmas cards, napkin rings. Have little placeholders around your dining table. Oops, I should have waited till after I cut, I guess. Okay, so now I'm going to cut this like I did the other one. So I'll cut the 2 3/4 in half, which would be 1 3/8. And then I'm going to cut 2 3/4 from opposite ends of the strip. So in other words, on the one strip, I'm cutting from this edge, and then I want to cut from this edge. So I'm going to flip it around and again cut it 2 3/4. Would somebody like to win this card? Okay. I think I want to put the Mossy Meadow cardstock behind that. So I need a piece of 4.5 inch by, let me think here, 4.5 by 3.25. Oh, I gotta use my other one. So here's 4.5 inches by 3.25. I'm going to put these up on, well, I'm trying to think, should I put them up on Post-it notes because this is kind of high. No, not Post-it notes, dimensionals. I'm doing dimensionals because I love dimensionals. And when you're placing the pieces, you're pretty much going to have equal spacing around the top, bottom, left and right sides, as well as between all the pieces. Look, I got these mixed up now. Okay. And I do like to put 2 dimensionals on, or cut one in half, or use a couple small ones, so that once you have it on, your piece doesn't wiggle with just one. Lisa, the pearls aren't, I mean, yeah, they're going to be heavier than the regular pearls or single embellishments, but they're not nearly as heavy as what I thought they might be. And I will show you a trick to, did I just cut this wrong? Now I'm like confused. What did I do here? Something's not right. Okay, people, what did I do wrong? Getting mixed up. Oh, here. This is it. Okay. I wasn't being careful. I didn't lay it out the way I needed to adhere it. Patricia, you're right. It is such a simple means of making a big impact on a handmade card. Completely changing the look of it by doing this cutting. When you do this, I don't press down too hard because like this one I think is not placed just right, so I can just carefully twist and pull that off with my dimensional still intact, like that. I think I need to adjust this one a little bit too, so same thing, just gently twist and pull. It's stuck a little tighter. Okay. Wasn't quite straight, and that's going to bother me. Okay, that's better. So isn't that pretty? Just a different, cool, fun impact. And now I'm trying to decide, should I place it on a white background or the cherry cobbler? Oh, I think I'm going to add a step in here though. Let's do this. Let's add a little gold behind this. So this piece was 4.5 by 3.25. So I'm just going to go up 1/4 inch. 4.5 by 3.25. 3.5 by 4 3/4. Oh, Alice, I'm glad you love it. Oh, I think that's elegant. Cherry cobbler, mossy meadow, and gold. Remember that for an awesome holiday colored combination. I've used that many times, that color combination, over the last several years. It's just very traditional, classic. All right, and then let me grab a cherry cobbler card base. Another, in this color combination, the cherry cobbler, mossy meadow and gold also works really beautifully with very vanilla cardstock as well. So that's something to consider. And somebody asked about how heavy the pearl embellishment is. It's not terribly heavy. If you're concerned about, whoops, I guess that was still damp from my Stampin' Blends marker, so let me put another on. If you're concerned about mailing this, it's really the height of your card that matters. They don't want something that's more than 1/4 inch deep, and they also don't want something that will cause a bump. So this is how I mail mine cards when I have something like this going on. I put it in the envelope, and remember, even if you're paying extra postage, your hand stamp cards are so worth the money you have invested in the products that you use, as well as the postage you're putting on that envelope. Oh, Amy, I think you're right. It does kind of look like you're looking out a window. Fun. And Patricia, I think that's a great idea too, putting it on black. Oh, that would really make this pop. I didn't think of the black, but I think that is a great idea. So what I would do is, to combat this embellishment, I just put a piece of cardstock over it, and I mail it just like that. So the bump is still there, but it's sort of, that cardstock over it makes it a little bit easier to go through. But this card would still need a 70-cent stamp if you're in the US. Okay. You could also adjust this to a tag that you would hang on a gift bag or put on a package. The other thing I didn't do, you know, I put dimensionals behind all these pieces. I did not put a dimensional in the space, the back space where that I knew my pearl embellishment would be, because this way, when it's in the envelope and goes through the mail, it gets pushed down in that center space a little bit, and that helps too. Okay? Be sure that you have commented, because I will be giving away this card today. I'll be choosing a name for that. And later today, I don't know what time, I'm going to do a very quick Facebook Live announcing the winner of the new Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine that I'm giving away on September 1st. People who placed an order with me July 6th through the 10th had their name entered into the drawing to win that. So I will be doing that later today. I've got a lot of things happening today, so I'm not exactly sure what time I can do that. Julie, I'm glad you appreciate the hint. I'm telling you, I do that so often, and I've never had a problem. Oh, you want to start on your Christmas cards, Vicki? I do too. I always wait so late. It makes me sick. In fact, I should just plan a day, a Christmas in July day, and oh, you know, I'm going to put that on the calendar. Vicki, you have inspired me. I'm going to put that on the calendar one day for this month that I'm going to dedicate to making Christmas cards, my own cards that I want to send out in December. And maybe you all will do it with me, and then I can get on a little bit, few different times throughout the day and show you what I'm making, and you can show what you're making. And then we could end with a, you know, an evening happy hour and on Zoom and share what we've made. I love that idea. I'm going to work on that tonight. All right, that's all I have for you. My lawn is waiting to be mowed, so I'm heading outside to do that now. I hope your Monday is wonderful, and I hope your Monday kicks off a great week for you. Thanks for hanging out with me on the Stampin' Piece VIP group, and I will see you soon. Bye-bye.